Hello, and welcome to Student Voice. I'm Maximillian Seiler. When Dr. Beth Norton came to campus in 2019 to serve as Vice President of Academic Affairs, no one could have known the challenges our college would face after 2 years of a global pandemic. Chattanooga State is still adapting to try to best accommodate learning. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Norton.
My pleasure.
So the first question I was going to ask you is, what have we learned as our campus responded to the pandemic?
We've learned a lot. Mostly we've learned how to come together. You know, often in crisis, it brings people together. And when I came in as a new vice president, I really didn't know my peers that I worked with on the cabinet very well. And what the pandemic did was brought us together as a team much more strongly than we would have been otherwise. We were meeting twice a week, sometimes more, to make decisions. We were having to make very quick decisions about what we were going to do for our students and our faculty and our staff. And we brought in people outside the cabinet to be part of that discussion. We brought in folks from student affairs. We had everyone around the table representing every area of the college. And so I feel like that was a real benefit, that we learned to work together more closely. And we learned that we can adapt. You know, Dr. Ashford kept saying through this whole process, we're resilient. And I think that we are. We learned that we can adapt to this situation and be resilient.
What were some surprises or things we never would have done before that COVID for us to try out?
Well, certainly, you know, as a student, students were impacted because we had to go virtual. We had to make that decision in really 1 week to take our on-ground classes online, either through a virtual situation where students would log in at their specific class time, or we had all online classes for students. And it was really a challenge because we have some in nursing that have to have the hands-on learning, and in our engineering department too. So we had to figure out a way for those students to complete once they were able to come back on campus. And I think that was probably the biggest lesson that we learned, because students and faculty had to adjust to that. Another thing that came out of this, which I think is, you know, the world has changed, and every article you read, no one's going to really function in the same way anymore. And that's true for us as well, because we learned that we could work from home, and we could do that successfully. So as a result of that, we have some departments, entire departments, that are now off campus and working from home, which frees up space on our campus for other things that we need space for. And I think that's something that is a change that's taken place because of the pandemic. A few other little things that have changed are that we began student chats in all of our departments and in student affairs and in admissions and records. And that's something we'd never done before, but we found that the students were extremely they used it a lot. They found favor in using those chats. And so that's something that we've kept as a result of the pandemic. And the other thing is, we learned that we can't be here to sign forms. You know, if you're not in person, you can't sign papers. And so many of our forms went to electronic. And that has helped us be more efficient as an organization to be able to get those papers signed and move more quickly than having to walk a paper to another office after it's signed.
What are some things happening on campus right now that you are excited about?
Well, of course, one of our biggest implementations is the 7-week class. Dr. Ashford and I had been attending conferences right after I became vice president here, and we were hearing about these colleges in Texas and other places that were having very high success rates with 7 and 8 week classes. And as we saw our enrollment continues to decline and has been for some time, and that's been concerning. We decided that the 7-week class, we needed it would be a shame if we didn't try to do something to improve our retention in our graduation rate. Because at that time, I think our graduation rate was up to 20% from 8%, but it was still at 20%. And, you know, how many people will send their child to a school where the graduation rate is 20%? You have a 20% likelihood. So we knew we needed to do something and implemented the 7-week classes. And we have already begun to see gains in our student retention and our student completion rates. And what's really valuable about that process is it's affecting all demographics. It's not just adult learners, it's every student dynamic across the board. And that's very exciting to see that needle move. Another thing that's going on is I'm working right now with some local area trucking and supply chain companies. We're developing a logistics program that we're going to roll out in the fall. Very excited about that. So we're working with them to review the curriculum and give us their feedback, and we'll know more about that in the fall. You'll hear more about that. A third thing that I need to bring up is down in the CEDIS building, we have partnered with Hamilton County Schools, and we have our Global Center for Digital Innovation. And that area allows so much innovation and people to come in, and students, it's there for students, it's there for faculty to use to really find a place to be innovative and develop their creative skills. So that's something that you'll hear more about as well as we move on. And then the other aspect of the college that I'd like to mention is what we're doing for our students to try to eliminate barriers for them so that they can complete and we can have a higher graduation rate. We have holistic student supports on campus, one of which is tutoring. And this year we were given an impressive grant from Unum Corporation, and that's going to be able to expand our tutoring process where we can actually embed tutors in our learning support classes. And we are so excited about that opportunity. In addition to that, we have a food pantry for our students. We have counseling services for our students because this pandemic has been very hard on everyone, and counseling services and emotional well-being has become even more important than it ever was. So we are happy we can offer those services to our students. We have an emergency aid fund for our students. If you have a flat tire and you can't afford to get that flat tire fixed and it's keeping you from coming to class, through the foundation we can investigate ways to help you out through that crisis. And then finally, we have worked with the CARTA system and developed a ride share for our students. That's kind of been a barrier. Transportation is often a barrier for our students. And so we have an agreement with CARTA that our students can have those bus passes. So we have so much going on. It's really exciting to see what the campus is doing to continue to evolve to better support our students, our faculty, and our staff.
That's good stuff. Thank you for sharing. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you again for joining us, Dr. Norton. That's it for this episode of Student Voice. For more information about programs at Chattanooga State, visit chattanoogastate.edu. Have a great day.